Taupe and welcome to the video. This, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, is going to be my reading vlog for The War of Two Queens by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Now, first, I want to be clear that this is not going to be a comprehensive, go into details, have all these million theories kind of reading vlog. It's going to be more of before I start reading, I'm going to say all of these stupid predictions I have. And then throughout my reading, I'm going to pop in and just be like, oh yeah, this is my thoughts, this is what happened, here's what I think this means, and here's what I think is going to happen. I also know this is going to be super long because let's just say I did a reading vlog of House of Sky and Breath, which is, yes, I think it's about 200 pages longer, but it's at that similar kind of high fantasy that I always struggle with. And so I feel and that was over an hour, so this I have a feeling will be at least 45 minutes. Also, I think my Shadow in the Ember reading vlog was about 40 minutes long, so I'm well expecting this to be 30-40 minutes. And also, obviously, there will be spoilers for the first 3 books in the Blood and Ash series, The War of Two Queens, and A Shadow in the Ember, so basically anything that takes place in this world will have spoilers. So technically it is 12/15 on the 15th, which the day the book comes out. But the book has not landed on my Kindle. I pre-ordered it. Well, I pre-ordered it on Kindle and I pre-ordered the paperback. I went a little overboard. But it's not there. So I'm guessing it's going to drop at 1 a.m. my time. Because then that is the last time zone in Canada. So it might go based on that. I have no idea. Even though it should do it, but we're not going to freak out. That means I have a little bit more time to discuss this, and then I also can reread the first 5 chapters because those were given out free. So I don't know how many of these predictions there even are. How many of them are crazy? There are probably so many other amazing theories out there, but these are more of just things that I personally either want to see, think we'll see, or are just kind of throwing out for no reason. So again, these are in no particular order. I was literally just sitting after my reread, which I literally finished 1 minute before it hit midnight. Keep that in mind. One is we will see Sarah, or we will at least hear about her, because Sarah is obviously the consort. Sarah is Poppy's grandmother. So I feel like she'll be relevant. I don't know if we'll see her. I would love for Poppy to see her, but I kind of feel like that might be stretching it. 2 is that we will see Nyctos as well. I also will forget what number I'm on. So, yeah, I just have a list. I don't even know if you'll be able to see that. No, you won't. But I'm literally just going to check off as things happen. So, possibly learn more about the time frame between A Shadow in the Ember and now, or just information at least about that time, because we know it's been at least bare minimum a few thousand years. I'm leaning on it's probably closer to a 10,000 of years or more, so 10,000 plus years, because it is not confirmed that time frame. I have just one note: joining, whether just emotionally or physically. I'm pro joining, but whether that be just entirely emotional or maybe it's a little bit physical. One of Poppy's adoptive parents survived, or her adoptive brother somehow lived. Her adoptive parents being Leopold and Coralie. Those are their names, right? I get names mixed up. And then her adoptive brother being Ian, who I just read half an hour be killed. But does somebody truly stay dead in this world? Undetermined. Is that Cass will stay in prison for at least 30% of the book. A lot of people are suggesting up to the 23/25% chapter mark, which is maybe around that 40 to 50% mark because there's 50 chapters. That's been confirmed by JLA. I'm also sorry for looking down. My hands got a little tired from holding. Tawny will be okay, maybe not fully mortal anymore. Poppy will meet, I don't know how you actually pronounce her father's name. Iris. Iris. That's how I've been pronouncing it. And he will join his daughter's side of the war / just want to help her, because I don't know, I want that. I feel like because he was imprisoned by Isbeth, or as my brain always just goes, Isbitch, because that's what everybody calls her in the, like, one of the Facebook groups that I'm in. I feel like he won't want to join her, obviously, but would want to join his daughter. I will give this book 5 stars. Isbeth will be defeated. There will be a cliffhanger, hopefully not as big as the Crown of Gilded Bones, because, like, I don't know how I survived 11 months between the Crown of Gilded Bones and the War of Two Queens. I'm literally sitting here like, I can barely survive this hour. Poppy might have to feed, maybe from Kieran, or at least from Cass once he's rescued, although I'm leaning more towards of, I want it to be that she has to feed, therefore she feeds off Kieran, because I love their friendship, I love their bond, I love it so much, and I feel like that would just be like another sign of trust, another sign of friendship. And then Cass will lose control. I think this is confirmed, but like anytime he said in Crown of Gilded Bones that he was in control, I'm like, bitch, just lose control. I want to see it. I think we all do. We maybe see more of Nectus, who is, I'm gonna call him the head Draken, because that's what my brain like refers to him as, is because he was the first one that we met, type thing. But I feel like if we see more of like Nyktos and Sarah, also I know I'm pronouncing Nyktos' name wrong. I fucking pronounce it the way I want to, the way it is read. That is my freaking like brain is like, it cannot pronounce it the way it's supposed to. A named important character / character we care about will either die or betray Poppy. This is obviously something that I don't want to happen, but I do see it happening possibly. More secrets. I just have a random thing of Jadis ? We know that she's out there somewhere in the world. Is she dead? Is she alive? I would love to see her maybe be found and reunited with Reaver, because we know that they grew up together, because, well, they were children in A Shadow in the Ember. I'd love to see them as adults interacting. And then I have this one thing of, I always pronounce these wrong, I always flip up the pronunciation, but I think it's Malik will live. I always, Malec is, according to JLA, pronounced Malik, and Malik is pronounced Malik, which my brain switches them up like a lot. I will get them pronunciation wrong. If I do, I will put a little note of like who I'm talking about in the corner or something. This clip is already super fucking long, so I'm going to end this here, and I will probably update you after I read the first 5 chapters or the book has hit my Kindle. Okay, so it is 1:13 and it is on my Kindle. It came in technically at 1:05. One thing that I do like though is we have a pronunciation guide, and I am already gonna put this here, is that we're going to at least learn more about the history, because the characters of Nyktos, who I think I am now seeing the pronunciation, pronouncing his name right, but also we have Sarah's name mentioned, as well as Lysania, which is in the past, so I feel like we're going to learn a little bit more about that. But I'm going to read the first 5 chapters, like I said I was, and then update again. I just feel like I had to say that, of like, we have an updated map with a couple new places and like a new passageway, and then we also have a pronunciation guide, which I am thankful, because I have been pronouncing a couple of characters' names wrong. Of like, the character that I thought the name was pronounced Delano is Delano? It's that little pronunciation guide. Or like, Isbeth is actually Isbeth. So there's those things. Just like how Nectus is actually Nictus, and it's gonna be Nectus in my brain. So yeah, pronunciation's just like how the whole thing. So I'm gonna read those chapters and then I will update again. So I read the first 5 chapters, which were the chapters that we were given already by JLA, in February, like beginning of February. Little did we know that that was the first 12% of the book. So in these first 12%, obviously Cass is imprisoned. We only saw his point of view, like the first chapter. We also have, I guess we've always known, but we've learned that there are things that are recurring themes, such as, like a recurring theme in both A Shadow in the Ember and the Blood and Ash books are the ascending, being chosen, and then the like second and third sons and daughter thing, which I still don't fully understand it in both cases, cause I'm dumb. Like I know in A Shadow in the Ember, is it third sons and daughters are turns into reverence, something like that, and then in Blood and Ash, they're essentially, I don't know. This is why I said this is not going to be a comprehensive review or anything, or like thing. We also, what else has happened? I just read 70 pages of the book and I don't remember shit. The big thing, the big thing is, at the end of chapter 5, Poppy received a package. It was a package from Isbeth. In the box was one of Cass's fingers. The finger that his marriage band is on. I don't remember what figure that is. I know is it your... It was set in a kingdom of flesh and fire when they got married. It's one of your pointer fingers, I think. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm trying to think of what else has happened. We have taken over the city of Messine. I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm too lazy to go to the pronunciation guide. And that's kind of where we are right now, which is kind of like close to the city, to like the region of Spence's End. Again, if you don't know these type of things, just leave now. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just leave. Because I'm not going to be explaining shit. I don't know what else there's to say. I'm going to read another like 1 or 2 chapters and then I think call it a night, because my energy is starting to go low and I want to be able to process it all, but probably 1 or 2 chapters. I definitely want to get to at least another Cass chapter, which chapter 6 is Poppy's chapter, so maybe chapter 7. Obviously, if by chapter like 7 or 8 we haven't had another Cass point of view, I am just gonna like call it a night, because I am starting to get a little tired as it's almost 2 a.m. Okay, so I read chapter 6 and chapter 7, and so in one thing that I forgot to mention from like chapters 1 through 5 is it's basically confirmed, like Reaver confirms it, that Poppy will have to feed because gods do have to feed. So then in chapter 6 we have this very like emotional scene slash moment with like Kieran and Poppy, and how it does end up getting to the conversation of she has to feed and Kieran offers. So I do feel like we will get that, and it will be like, I have a feeling it will be like this like very like this sweet and caring scene, because especially of how he's like, I don't have to do this, but I want to do this because you're my friend and I care about you. And like, and then Poppy was in her monologue kind of being like, I almost don't understand how he could be this willing, because when we met he found me annoying as shit. And I'm like, well, you are annoying as shit. But that's a side note. And then in chapter 7 we were in Cass's point of view, where there is this handmaiden for the queen, like for Queen Isbeth, and I believe that this handmaiden is more than a reverent handmaiden. I don't know why. She just doesn't act like the way that you think that they would. And and I don't really know. I could be pulling at strings, but I feel like there's something with her. I couldn't tell you what. I randomly did have this thought that I will put in here, is what if she's the first daughter? I have no idea how it fits into everything, but that popped into my head. And then in chapter 7, we also jumped back into Poppy's point of view, and we have decided that essentially Poppy, Kieran, and Reaver are going to basically break into Wayfarer Castle in Carsodonia and essentially get Cass back. That's kind of where we're at. It's currently like 2:40 in the morning, so I'm gonna crawl into bed. I'm exhausted as all hell. If I read any more, I don't think I will be able to properly like think it, but I am gonna kind of wake up a little bit early in the morning so that I can read a little bit, get all my shit done, because throughout the day tomorrow I'm not gonna let reading this book ruin my routine, but I'm going to let this book flow around my routine. So like in the morning, maybe instead of watching my typical TikToks, I might read some of the book, or instead of instead of a few little things I'll be reading, I will probably read a couple chapters here and there throughout the day while getting other things done. So we'll see you sometime, well, it's technically morning, but like at an actually reasonable time instead of like 2-something in the morning. Okay, so now it's almost noon on the 15th, so Tuesday, and I have now read chapter 8 and chapter 9, and going into chapter 10, that's like where I'm at this point. So in the last 2 chapters, we had like this, so essentially, heartmates can essentially go into each other's dreams, as Poppy had a dream that she was with Cass in the kind of like the cave, from, Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, like the underwater cave thing. And at first she thought it was entirely a dream, but then when she woke up, her hair was smelling like lilacs and of Cass, and just everything that she felt in the dream she felt in real life. And then Kieran put 2 and 2 together, and it's rare that, like, very rare, very unique heartmates can do that, and so they're able to kind of interact with each other if they're able to find each other in, I'm gonna call it, in their dreams. And then also this led to there being, it's not attack on the scene, but it's more of like, I don't even know how to describe it, but essentially like the ground started shaking, and Draken fell from the sky, and there ended up being 16 Draken that were killed, but I don't even know how really. And then we do also learn a little bit of information about, I'm guessing it kind of is right after A Shadow in the Ember, like in that area of time, about Colas and the Reverence, is it Reverence? Yeah. Reverence, of how he created them, and how essentially we had, Ethos, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Nyctos' father and Nectis, they were the ones that created mortals, which, that's new information, and essentially by doing so, there's this ether in some humans of that third son or daughter that is what carries on into, like, from the days of A Shadow in the Ember into the days of the Blood and Ash series. So that kind of explains that a little bit, of that's why, like, in current times, we'll call it, the third sons and daughters ascend, or are forced to ascend, because they have that ether that allows them to do that. And then we also had, it's not that relevant, but it is also Poppy basically has said that, like, that she cannot live without Kieran as well. So she's now bringing up the idea in her head, she hasn't mentioned it to anybody, about possibly the joining, because by having the joining between Poppy, Cass, and Kieran, it would link both Cass and Kieran's lifespan, life force to hers, kind of. Therefore, they would be immortal with her, which I love. That I just absolutely am in love with Poppy and Kieran's friendship. Like, it is top tier in this. Like, I'm genuinely, like, their interactions are just pure, like, it's just that pure, like, I want to protect you, I want to be your friend, I want to make sure that you're safe, and that just warms my heart so much. I've always loved those two's, like, friendship and their bond, but now that has grown exponentially, and I love it. But I don't know really what I'm doing today. I might read another chapter or two. I know later today we have to go downtown, so I'll do that, and I probably will read another chapter or two because I'm in the reading mood. So yeah. Okay, so I ended up reading chapter 10 and 11, and chapter 10 was Poppy, and it was basically her talking to, like, some of the, like, Atlanteans that have come to help, like, the, like, leaders, and basically, like, being all, like, a lot of them were like, oh no, you shouldn't go to Carcedonia to do this, and she's like, no, I am. And it was basically, like, political stuff, so not really that important. It's basically like, oh, we're planning on taking Oak Ambler. And then we had chapter 11, which was Cass's point of view, and essentially it was him and his brother, Malik, kind of talking and interacting, and nothing was really importantly said. Definitely there is something different about that handmaiden that I mentioned earlier. Still don't know what. We also know that Malik is there of his own, like, own free will kind of thing, of, like, not his own free will, like, he is not allowed to leave, but he's not mad being there. I don't really think anything else stood out to me really in those last two chapters. I have no idea, again, I have, like, no idea when I'm going to pick this book up again. So it's 6 o'clock, and I'm now going to, like, read a little bit more, and I will update you as I go. Okay, so it's now 7:15, and I'm up to, just give me a minute, and I'm up to chapter 16, so I've read from, where was I at? 13 through 16, we'll go with that. Sorry, no. 13 through 15. And essentially all that has happened is we have now started the process of taking Oak Ambler, and we haven't learned much, but everything that we have learned, I am struggling to, like, produce back. Like, I'm struggling with, like, being like, okay, this is what happened, and this is what we learned. I'm struggling with that, I think, right now, because my brain is just barely able to understand it. And all of those chapters were Poppy's point of view, so we haven't seen Cass, which does scare me a little bit. Because now I feel like we're going to get one of his chapters soon, and it's going to, like, scare me a little bit. Loving this book so far. I will say that I'm just, like, not that I'm not enjoying it as much as the others, but I feel like, I think it's where I am just mentally, that I'm just kind of, like, my brain is just for a lot of scenes going, yeah, that's what's going on, and I do find myself having to sometimes reread a page to understand things. So I'm now going into chapter 20, and since the last time I updated, I don't even know what time it is. It's now like 9 something. But one big thing, I guess, that has happened is that Tawny has arrived in Oak Ambler and has revealed she's perfectly fine in health. She might not be fully immortal. So there's that. But then also, basically, when she was dying, because she basically died and kind of came back to life almost, but not entirely, but basically she said that she was like feeling like she was dying, but then she saw Victor, who in the first book essentially is almost like is one of Poppy's is her head personal guard, but it's also revealed that he is a Victor who is like same name, I know, but basically like Victors in the A Shadow in the Ember book are basically, they're almost like people that are blessed to look after a person, but when they die, they can end up basically being reincarnated, but without the memories. They just have that, they just know that they have to keep this person safe type thing. And then there's a whole thing of like, apparently Poppy already knows the consort's name, so I'm like, how, or something like that. Okay, so basically we also have the reference to the prophecy that is revealed in A Shadow in the Ember. I'm not going to reveal it all, but basically we are right of like part of it being Poppy, obviously, but then we obviously are now learning that there is, like, we have known because of this book that there is the first daughter and the second daughter, and Poppy is the second daughter, but between this book and the other books, we don't know who the first daughter is. Originally we had a theory that it was going to be Sarah, but then it's confirmed it's not. So there's that whole thing of like, we now know the prophecy from this book, which I found and then I lost the page, so I'm not going to read it, and it's not fully relevant yet, but I feel like that prophecy will come back again, and like we'll learn a little bit more about it. And now we are on, like, Poppy has just basically left to go to Carsodonia to find Cass, and chapter 20 is a Cass point of view, and that scares me. I'm scared. Are we surprised, really? No. Okay, so since my last update, I'm now going into chapter 24, and since the last thing, there has been two big things, I guess, that are, like, on my list to talk about, of things that I want to talk about. So one is Poppy did have to feed from Kieran, and it was like exactly what I wanted it to be, of like intimate, but then also like on like a friend level, of like she started feeding from him, and then a memory of Kieran and Cass's childhood popped into Kieran's head, therefore Poppy saw it, and it was just a cute little thing of like from when they were like not their childhood, but like I think Poppy said like possibly around the age of like Cass's culling and all that type thing, and then that switched to Kieran's night on the beach. Is that the right way to say it? Of like, in the Crown of Gilded Bones, there's the beach where they go to the beach and then things happen, and it's basically revealed that Kieran was watching Cass and Poppy on the beach when they were doing their thing. Not surprised, but I also love how Kieran was like, do you want to talk about that? And Poppy's like, nah. Another huge thing is Poppy, Kieran, and Reaver got caught on their way to Carsodonia and got caught by the handmaiden that I mentioned earlier, whose name we now know is Millicent, and she basically took them to Wayfair Castle, and then we also learned, well, we've confirmed that like Carsodonia is where like Lasagna from this book is, which like we all knew, but we confirmed it. And I also love how there's a little joke of like Kieran, like Reaver was like mentioning Lasagna, and I also like how when Reaver mentioned Lasagna, Kieran was like, lasagna, and it's like a running joke in like the Blood and Ash World like group that Lasagna is lasagna, end of story. So I liked how that was incorporated. But then also, so currently right now, as of the end of chapter 23, we are in the throne room with Isbeth. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I'm gonna go read on because my brain is just going. I need the reunion. I need the reunion between Poppy and Cass, like, right now. Do not mind my hair. I've gone to, like, just ha. Okay, so I'm about to go into chapter 27. Shit's happened. So chapter 25, Poppy saw Cass. They were reunited, as in reunited under the watch of Isbeth. And then, stuff with bear with me. My brain is still trying to wrap my head around this thing. So then in chapter 26, we ended up, like, switching to Cass's point of view. And, I called a theory. The one theory that I had at the beginning of this book is true that I said, is that the handmaiden, Millicent, or Millie as she also doesn't mind being called, is the first daughter, who is also Poppy's sister. I don't know if it's twins or not, but Millicent looks exactly like Poppy, except with, like, a different hair color. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. Again, I don't know if they're twins or something, but I don't think so, because I think it's that Millicent is older, obviously because being the first daughter, not the second daughter like Poppy, but then also there was, like, something in reference of, like, being, like, the older, like, being hundreds, like, being, like, as old, said to Poppy, like, as old as your king, referring to Cass, was around that same age. That's genuinely how I feel. I'm just like, what? I literally, as soon as I read that, I was like, I guessed it, I really fucking guessed it. So then that does mean that the first and second daughter are their sisters. I don't know who had that on their fucking bingo board. I'm still trying to figure out how it said that Poppy and Millie, or Poppy and Millicent, whatever you want to call her, are sisters via Iris's bloodline, as in that they share the same father. I don't think they share the same mother. I do not think that Millicent is Beth's daughter, but we don't know who her mother is now, and that now wraps around to, like, is this person important, and then how this will play into the rest of the storyline, and also possibly tie back into this. We also do learn, what else did we learn? I don't know, we learned more shit too, I think, that my brain is just going, hey. But holy shit, the way that I guessed that, mind blown. But I'm gonna go read more, because fuck, this book is getting good. Okay, so I'm going into, I didn't pay attention to what chapter, give me a second. Okay, I'm now going into chapter 32, and they are reunited, they are reunited. Well, they have been for the last, like, 2 chapters. Again, we're just gonna ignore the hair. I'm realizing it's just like a fucking bobblehead, but it's nothing. So, Cass and Poppy are reunited. Well, I guess Cass is reunited with everybody. But what happened was, essentially, is that something was gonna happen the next day, and so Poppy kind of went, how about no? She summoned the mist that only the Craven and the Primals could create, and kind of flooded Carcedonia, and that left her, Reaver, and Kieran to escape. And they went to the, is it the Temple of Shadows? Which is essentially like Nyctos' temple, kind of from, like this, like the temple, I think it's like the Temple of Death or something called in A Shadow in the Ember, but that's where Cass was being held. But we had Malik, who helped them escape, because he wants to see his brother succeed, because Malik and Millicent are heartmates. I don't know if Millicent knows this or not. I do kind of find it cliche of like two brothers and two sisters, and then like then the couples between that of like, oh, it's like that. But I do also kind of like it. I am also questioning still on how much Millicent knows about everything, because like she knows that she's the first daughter, she knows that she is the daughter of Iris and the sister to Poppy, but what else does she know that we don't know? And also, what does Malik know that we don't know? But then Malik ended up taking us to like this place in Carcedonia, but like outside, like to like a place that was safe, like a safe house almost type thing. And then Cass had to feed because he was going into bloodlust, and then that led to him losing control and them having a wild as fuck sex session. Oh my gosh, it was really good because it's like I don't know. One thing about the series is the thing of he's always like, I'm in control, and in this he wasn't, and it was just like the raw beauty of the moment. Obviously he's not in control because of like the bloodlust that he had, and then that disappeared, but he still had that like need, and he still continued feeding. And so now I'm trying to think of what else has been said, and I don't think anything else has been said that is like very, very, very like up there in information. Again, I'm not retaining all the information. I definitely will probably be doing a reread of this maybe later this year, probably before the sequel of this comes out, because I feel like I know I'll be doing a reread of this before the second book and this comes out. But yeah, I'm going to continue reading because I am like just still like we have 18 chapters left, and I just feel like I'm on like cloud 9. I feel like I'm almost like on like just like this high, and even though it's already like 12:30, I have I don't know, I think maybe like 2 hours left of the book is what like Kindle's saying. I think it's like 2.5 hours or something, and I'm like, sleep, who is she? I'll just be up till 4 a.m. and I'm okay with that. So now we're going to chapter 35, and a couple things have been revealed. Not a lot, but kind of a little bit. First of all, it is confirmed that Poppy and Millicent are like full sisters, is that like Isbeth is Millicent's mother, and then also it's like, so what happened with Millicent is essentially she was supposed to go through her calling to become a goddess. She essentially failed and died, and then Isbeth brought her back as a reverend with the help of Callum, who is, don't even ask me, but I'm just gonna say for shits and giggles, it's the same Callum that's in this book that is like turned, I think, into a reverend in this, if I'm not mistaken. And that's mainly it. It also, no, that's not mainly it. Also, Poppy is a primal. She's a primal born of mortal flesh. Don't ask me what the fuck that means. I thought the primals were like the primals in this, where they are like not quite the creators of all, but they are basically the creators of all. So yeah, so we went from thinking that in the first book Poppy was like just a normal person. Then we went, oh, maybe she's something else. Then it was, oh, maybe she's a deity, maybe she's a god. Now she's a primal. What the fuck? I'm at this point almost like, can this be her? Can she stop fucking leveling up, please? But I'm gonna go read more. I genuinely have so much energy for it being like 1:30 in the morning. So I'm gonna go read more because I need to know more. I need to just see how this ends. Okay, so apparently I'm running out of storage on my phone, so I have to do this really quick. But we're now going into chapter 41, and some things have happened. So first of all, we are now away from Carcedonia, but only because of Poppy and the crew, we'll call it that, have agreed to wake like Malik from where he is being rested in the Blood Forest and bring him to Isbeth. And the reason why we're allowed to leave is because Isbeth put a curse on Kieran that essentially, if by a certain time they have not brought her like Malik, Kieran will die. And this brings up the conversation of the joining of, well, there's a possibility that having the joining happen will make it so that Kieran will live, because his life would then be kind of tied to a primal's. And, well, this is originally brought up by Reaver, who assumes that Kieran, Cass, and Poppy have already done the joining, but they obviously haven't. So then this brings up a conversation of, like, do they do it? And obviously all of them are on board, because there is just, between the three of them, there's all these different dynamics that are all centered around love of various kinds. I think that is like the big things to mention, and we're now going into where we're going to the Blood Forest. So I have a feeling I'll only have one or two more updates. Chapter 45. We've had the joining. Well, first let's backtrack. We have got Malik's like coffin from where he was essentially buried. It's now currently sitting in a barn in like wherever we're at. I kind of forgot. And then the joining happened, and I am equally so fucking happy and equally so fucking mad. Because I said I was okay with like either both, if it was just gonna be emotionally or if it was going to be like sexually, and I'm like, it was sexually, but it was basically fade to black. Because it was like things of like, I'm very bitchy right now, I feel like. I'm tired, I'm like, oh my god, you really, because it's basically more of like a, like, the joining happens, and then Poppy decides to take it to that next level of like becoming like sexual because of like all the feelings that she has, all the emotions. But then basically as soon as it's that point, it's kind of more of like, so then there's touching, kissing, hands, all that, it's not descriptive. And I'm like, come on, we've had descriptive scenes in this book before, multiple times. You couldn't have written like 2 pages of explicit on-page, like, I honestly want to say it, JLA was too scared to write a threesome. It's not that hard, you just need to know where all the body parts are. And I feel like I get why, because it was more or less to please the readers that didn't want it to become sexual, but I was one of those people that I'm like, if you're gonna do it sexual, just do it. Just like straight up being like, whose hands are where, whose tongues are where, who's kissing her, who's fucking her, all that, like, and instead of just like, oh, this happened, and then this happened, this happened. I'm just gonna read part of it to say why I'm mad. Like, I truly had no idea whose hands gripped my hips or whose mouth came down to mine. I only knew that my palms was led to another ridge's length, joining the hand already there. Whose hand's already there? What I had asked for had found me quickly, hitting me as in shockwave after shockwave. The harsh grunt, the harsh grunt against my neck, and the way the hands grabbed onto me, holding me in place, told me that I hadn't found release alone, nor that I was alone when I stretched to my side, my mouth claimed by a different one who held me from behind, keeping my legs draped over his hips as the one against my chest took me steadily, relentlessly, as I fell over the edge again. I could have had both of them inside me tonight, not at once, but at different times. It could have only been one of them who moved inside me, but I knew who rolled me onto my back, whose lap I was in when I was held, when a dark head and wicked mouth found its way between my thighs, licking me and tormenting, tasting and teasing until I shattered apart, until I felt a hot splash against my lower back, a release driven me by the frenzied emotions I was devoured. And so I'm like, you get what I'm saying is like, okay, yeah, I can tell by that ending, and also this thing is Honeydew Castile murmured, lifting his head as so like obviously we know that like things. I'm like, from that I can get an image, but it's not what I want. I love how I just freaking started reading the whole like the thing of there was a little bit more of like that, but that's basically what I read is the core part of like the sex part. The rest of it's all like build up of like, oh, what do you want? What do you want us to do? We're not going to do anything until you say. And I'm like, I can understand of like, but I knew who rolled me onto my back, whose lap I was held in when a dark head and wicked mouth found its way between my thighs. That's obviously Kieran holding her. Well, Cass has fun downtown, we'll call it. But I'm like, come on, fanfic writers have written this scene more intimately. I know, I've read probably all of them. But we're just going to continue the book. I probably won't update until the end of the book because there's only 5 more chapters. But that's my thoughts on the joining, I guess, is I needed it more detailed. Don't get me wrong, the joining itself of how it works is absolutely beautiful. I'm just a little disappointed with the sex. I'm still loving the book, like, don't get me wrong. But that I'm like, fanfic writers, rewrite it and make it smuttier. Finish the book, it's 4:22 a.m. I'm literally holding this book so I can move it around so I can just be like this. Okay, what the fuck just happened? So, things from this are really fucking tying in because, so, we take Malik to where we need to meet Isbeth. No problem. Isbeth stabs him, and we're all like, what the fuck? Then it's revealed that doing all of this will awaken Colas, who is the original. Bear with me. It's 4:30 in the morning almost. Colas, who is the original, who is the original Primal of Death before taking the title of Primal of Life from his brother Ethos, who then that title ends up getting passed down to Nyctos, and then Sarah is the primal of the true primal of life because of things that are mentioned and happen in this. And then there's a thing that also, like, Poppy is now the primal of is it blood and bone and life and death. And the reason that she is this is because of something to do with bloodlines and like literally like okay, so okay, I'm genuinely trying to think. There was a moment that we thought that people died, but then Poppy brought them all back to life. I'm just like, what the fuck? I think I'm gonna leave this clip here, cause I will literally just sit here and be spewing random things. Like now I'm like, I think I need to reread this. But I'm gonna leave this here. I'm gonna sleep on my thoughts. I'm gonna make comprehensive thoughts, and I will say my final thoughts, go over what my predictions were right and what weren't, and all of that. Okay, so it is now almost 1 o'clock on the 16th, and I think I have some of my final thoughts. Not all, but enough that I feel comfortable doing this. First, I want to kind of go back and explain a little bit more of what I was rambling about last night about the whole thing with how it ties back into A Shadow in the Ember. Okay, so basically, don't mind this. This is just so that I can see it and do good. So essentially, where is it? Poppy brought people back to life, and it's like, but I wasn't the primal of life. It wasn't just you. You brought them back. You're not powerful, that you had help. The primal life aided you, and Nyctos captured their souls before they could enter the veil or the abyss, and then released them. And then it's like, this is kind of what, I'm just kind of paraphrasing it, kind of, balancer must always be balanced, especially when the primal of life granted you such as ass. Seraphina, the consort, she's the true primal of life. She's the heir to the lands and seas, skies and realms. The fire and the flesh, the primal of the life, the queen of the gods, most powerful primal for now. How is this possible? It's a complicated journey about how the consort became the primal, but it started off with your great-grandfather, Ethos, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, when he was the primal of life, and his brother Colas, the true primal of death, and this is relevant because Colas is now awakened, arised, I don't know the full term. To make a long story short, Colas fell in love with a mortal, scared her while he was picking flowers for a wedding, and then she ran off. She fell from a cliff with sorrows. Her name was Sorsha. I don't know if that's the thing. Colas went to Ethos, asking for her to bring her back to life. Ethos refused, knowing that restoring life to the dead wasn't something that you should often do. It started a bitter animosity between the brothers, which resulted in Colas using some sort of magic to steal his brother's essence, allowing Colas to become the primal of life and Ethos the primal of death, but neither went to rule over such things. And then the Ember life remained in Ethos. Another Ember had passed into Nyctos, but Ethos feared that Colas would discover the Ember within Nyctos, so he took it and placed it in a mortal, in the consort. We've learned this in the end of A Shadow in the Ember, but this all makes sense of like this thing of when Colas did what he this is a couple of pages later, when Colas did what Colas did when he stole the Ethos' essence was a catastrophic consequence. It prevented any other primal from being born. The consort's ascension was like a cosmic restart, but only if a female descendant was born and ascended would be restart anew, and it began you and your children, if you chose to have them. They will be the first to be born primal since Nyctos, so that's a lot. Why only female? Because it follows whoever the current primal of life is. Technically, Sarah's a primal of life, and now leading on to Poppy. Because what, this is again a couple pages later, because what Nyctos and the consort did to stop Colas, what the balance of fates demanded, there could be no more primals born. The why behind it, well, there's not enough time in the realms to go into that. We're going to learn about all that in A Light in the Flame, which is book 2 in the like Flash and Fire series. But Nyctos was supposed to be the last born primal, and the consort would be the last primal born of mortal flesh. You were never supposed to be, and there's a thing of like, Malik and Iris were never supposed to have children, but obviously both of them did. One of them ended up with 2 daughters. And then they were referring to Malik and Iris, I don't know how it's pronounced. They were not permitted to come here. They were born in this realm, but they were strongly advised against it. The risk was too great. Creating that cosmic restart allowed for Nyctos and the consort to do, allowing for what Nyctos and the consort did to Colas to be undone. So, aka they did something in maybe A Light in the Flame to like wrap that up, and then now he's coming back. So then I feel like in the next book, which we'll get to what I think the title is going to be in a second. So basically, like, Poppy's like a loophole to what things happened. Is you are not just a loophole, you are many things: the primal of blood and bone, and the true primal of life and death. Those 2 essences have never existed in one, not in the consort, not in Nyctos. Is that a good or bad thing? It's yet to be known. And I think that's mainly all of what is like, the consort and Nyctos no longer slept. That means the god will be awakening across the many courts of Elysium and the mortal realm. Many of their loyalties do not lie with the primal of life. The war you fought hasn't ended, it's just begun. So basically, Isbeth is dead, probably mentioned that, but then also now there's this whole thing with Colas, which I feel like we'll learn more about in that's A Shadow in the Ember, but the sequel to that. So there's all that, and then I have a feeling that the title for book 5 will be The Primal of Blood and Bone, because it fits something that we were given, I think it was maybe a couple months ago, where it was like the blank dash, like it was like kind of basically like fill in the blank with the number, with the letters, and like there's a certain amount of letters per word, and it fits perfectly, and that is Poppy. She is the primal of blood and bone, the primal of life and death. And I don't really know where I'm going with this thing anymore, but I'm just gonna quickly go through my things and see what I got right, what I got wrong, if I can even fucking find them. So thoughts and prediction point form, and then I will talk about them, and then I will wrap up with just overall thoughts. So we will see Sarah, or at least hear about her more. We do hear about her a little bit, but not a lot. So I'm counting that as done, but like, we will see more of Nyktos as well. We won't see him, but we heard a little bit about him, how everyone believes that like he's the one that created the Wolven and all that, and it's actually Sarah and all that. Possibly learn more about the time frame between A Shadow in the Ember and now, or just information, kind of a little information about the whole Colas thing. The joining, we got that. I've already shared my thoughts. One thing that I just want to pop in and say is like, a lot of people on Twitter and various social media platforms are mad at JLA for doing the joining, and they feel as though that the bond between Kieran and Poppy in this book is cheating. It's emotional cheating. And while I can definitely see how people can come to that conclusion, I don't think it is. I think it is that there is this bond that they had in the Crown of Gilded Bones, well, even since probably as early as A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, of a bond, a friendship developing. And in like A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, it was more of like teasing and banter, and then kind of moving into the Crown of Gilded Bones was friendship, the banter that stuck there. There was a little bit of like teasing and a little bit like, not flirting, I won't want to call it flirting, but just like they got each other as people, so they knew what they could say that and what was crossing the line. And then in The War of Two Queens here is, yeah, there was a light amount of flirting, but it was friendly flirting. And also Kieran would never have said anything that he knew that Cass would have not liked, and vice versa, is Poppy would never have said anything to Kieran that Cass would not approve of. And so I don't think it's emotional cheating. I think it is that there was already this emotional bond that Kieran and Poppy had before Cass went away, well, when Cass like was taken, and I have a feeling that that bond between Poppy and Kieran would have formed and would have gone the exact same way whether Cass was with them or not. If you do not agree with that, well, fuck off. That's my opinion. The joining was exactly what I wanted it to be, and it's, well, not exactly what I wanted it to be, but like, it was needed. And there's a whole thing of like, oh, are they going to become a throuple? Is it going to be, I'm leaning towards no, but that at any time Kieran wants like to, I don't know, just emotionally be connected to them, he can. Because like there's a thing when they're traveling to like the place of the ending is where literally he just crawls into the tent with like Poppy and Cass and just curls up with them, and everybody's okay with that. That's normal. That's the bond it's going to be, is going to just be like, one of us needs emotional support, we'll all be there. I feel like it's definitely going to be more of an emotional thing than anything else. One of Poppy's adoptive parents survived, or her adoptive brother somehow lived. No. Coralie is dead because of drinking Draken blood. Ian is dead, and Leopold is, I think he was Coralie's victor and died when she died, or something like that. And then Cass will stay in prison for at least 30% of the book. Rumors up to chapter 23/25-ish, aka 50%. In chapter 25, Poppy and Cass officially saw each other. Poppy will meet Iris, and he will join his daughter's side of the war, / just want to be part of her life. That I feel like will happen in book 5. I I will give this book 5 stars. I am giving this book 5 stars, not for the plot, but more for my enjoyment, the characters, and the world. And I just love the characters' bonds and all of that, and that's why I like this series, is the plot is always a little wild. There's continuity errors here and there. There's just things that I feel like aren't fully fleshed out, but I just enjoy these books so much. That's why I give them 5 stars. They're probably in reality more like a 4 stars, but I get this like feeling in my stomach when I think of that, and I'm like, no, it has to be 5 stars. Isbeth will be defeated. Yep. There will be a cliffhanger, hopefully not as big as the Crown of Gilded Bones. There is, but I guess it's more of like the war you fought hasn't ended, it's only just begun. So basically the cliffhanger is just, there's going to be this bigger war, think about it. Poppy might have to feed maybe from Kieran or Cass, feeds from Kieran, and she ends up with fangs, so that's cool. Cass will lose control, I've talked about that. Maybe see more of Nectus, and we do. He's the one that explains the whole thing that I like was saying earlier, and yeah, a named important character we care about will die / will betray Poppy. Technically, Delano, Niall, Emil, and Hissa, who are all characters that I grew fond of throughout the series, they technically died, but Poppy brought them back to life, probably along with others. I just put the Jadis thing is, she's confirmed to be alive because Nectus, when he goes into the mortal realm, can still feel her, and Nectus can still feel her because of that, like with the Draken and like the blood a blood connection to basically like a father can sense a daughter, and if she's still alive. And then Malik will live, and this is true because after he got stabbed, he didn't die. The dagger was removed, and then Reaver has now taken the like coffin, I'm calling it a coffin, with his body to Elysium, to Sarah and Nyktos, and that is going to awaken both of them. And then I feel like in the next book they're gonna like come in and be like, I'm sorry, what the fuck did you do? Like, that's literally what it's gonna be. So so in the next book, little predictions I guess, is Sarah and Nyktos will show up and see our characters, or will travel to Elysium somehow, and I have a feeling that they're going to be a bigger part. That's pretty much all I can predict. Shit's going to hit the fan. Kolos is the big bad, which I don't know how I feel about that, because he's going to be the big bad in the whole like Flesh and Fire series, with a Shadow in the Ember and a Light and a Flame, and then if there is a third book, it's currently confirmed that there's only going to be 2 books, but there could be a 3rd book type thing of like, it's uncertain yet. I'm trying to think of what else I have to say. And I think I'm going to leave this here though, because my thoughts are now a big mumble jumbled mess. I might have more coherent thoughts on this book with my wrap up at the end of the month. But for now, I think I have expressed all of my thoughts. I love this book, I love the characters, love the world, I've already said all that, so I think I'm going to leave this here. Let me know your thoughts. Please try to keep it positive in the comments. I will remove negative comments on this video if you are arguing of like, this shouldn't have happened, or this book is crap, and I will remove comments like that. I'm not afraid to, because I want to keep this video as positive, because these are my positive thoughts, so please keep them positive in the comments below. But I really hope you enjoyed this video, and bye!